Today, we're gonna make a heavy duty workbench, cost less than $100, and it's made completely out of 2x4s, and we're gonna do it off the grid. Today's video is sponsored by EcoFlow. This project takes 14 2x4s, which is just under $90. First thing I need to do is cut my 4 32-inch legs out of 4 different 2x4s to maximize my yield. So now we're cutting the 4 cross supports out of 2 different 2x4s. We're working out of the back of the truck. We're in the middle of the park today, so I don't have stops. So I'm gonna try to cut right on the line. And this one is 37.5 inches long. This is one of those projects where you could cut every single piece at the very beginning before assembling, and that would save you a ton of time. I'm going to cut as I go just to help explain what I'm doing. I have my legs here, and they're basically going to get doubled up. We've got the long support that's going to go up here. We've got another long support that's going to go down here. And then we got these 2 front pieces that are going to go in here like this. And then after we get that glued and nailed, we'll cut 2 more pieces down here, and then we will repeat for the other side of the bench. I'm going to take the top cross support and glue it into place. So then I'm going to use a 2-inch brad nail to nail it into place, and we won't have to wait for glue to dry, and we can move on to the next step. And why not use a lot of glue? There we go. Now do the same with the other side. So now we'll take this front leg support and we're just going to glue and nail it into place. And then same thing with the other side. So now we can take another cross support, go on the bottom here, and glue that into place. And then secure it with the brads. So now I'm going to cut 2 smaller pieces and glue and nail them into place. All right, that is one assembly, and now we're going to do the exact same thing for the other side. I cut all 7 bottom shelf pieces, which is going to act as support. Now I'm going to cut the 2 top supports, and I'm using the EcoFlow as my stop here so I can cut 2 equal lengths. Cool. Now we can assemble everything. I'm really used to working in my shop where we have decent dust collection. Cover your coffee. That was not on purpose. I'm using a piece of melamine as a flat surface on the back of my truck here, and that's going to work as my bench. And I got these two supports right here. They're gonna go inside here like this. I'm gonna get attached like this. And then I'm gonna glue and screw this into place. All right, I'm gonna add a whole bunch of glue here, and I'm only gonna put one screw in for now so I can square it up with the bottom shelf. Then once I do that, I can put more screws in here. So now I can flip this over and I can start putting in the bottom shelf supports to square this up. Square that up. And square this side up. Now I can add more screws in to the top here. That is our base. That is nice and sturdy. So for the bottom, I have these 7 pieces for the shelf that also doubles as the support. If you wanted it solid, you would need a table saw to rip a couple of them to the perfect width. You can also save yourself a 2x4 if you have a sheet of plywood you could put on there, and that will also sturdy this up. So I'm just going to space them out evenly, eyeball it, and then glue and nail it down. That is the base. We didn't use any clamps. We didn't have a workbench. You could do this in your driveway. You could do this with a circular saw because it was just nothing but cross cuts. You could use plywood or even better MDF for the top, but I would double or triple that up to at least 1.5 to 2 inches thick. And that is going to give you a perfectly flat surface. And then that thickness is going to allow you to use dog holes for different hold down methods and joinery. I am going to continue using 2x4s because this is nothing but a 2x4 bench. One 8-foot 2x4 cut in half will be the length of this bench. So let's start cutting them down. So I have all the pieces cut for the top. I'm gonna do this in 2 halves so I can run each section through the planer. If you don't have a planer, you can do it all at one time. You're just not gonna be able to get a perfectly flat top unless you hand plane it. Like we mentioned before, you can also use plywood or MDF as your top. So I'm just going to take one piece, I'm gonna add a bunch of glue, I'm gonna take another piece, and then nail those two together, and I'm gonna put the nails right in the middle so it doesn't hit the planer, and then I'm just gonna add each piece, nail it on, and just keep doing that for each section. There's one. Now we'll do the other one. This is awesome. Somewhat flat because we had the melamine base that we're using to reference off of, but now I'm going to run this through the planer. This is going to be an outdoor workbench, so we can do more projects outdoors. So I'm not super concerned about it being perfectly flat, but I do want to run this through the planer just to kind of even it out a little bit. Just running this through the planer is not going to make it perfectly flat, because if your boards are cupped this way and you run it through the planer, it's going to come out cupped. The planer just reduces the thickness. You would actually have to run the bottom edge through a joiner first and then run it through the planer. But this is an outdoor workbench for the outdoors. I'm not super concerned about it being perfectly flat, and if I want to get it perfectly flat, I can take a hand plane to it at a later point. So now I'm gonna, these are heavy, I'm just gonna run these guys through the planer. Hopefully it can handle it. So I cleaned up the edges on the miter saw so it looks nice and clean. And now I have to glue these two halves together. This is the only part of the entire project where I have to use clamps, which is pretty darn cool. This top is solid pine, so it's going to want to expand and contract this way. So we have to account for that when we attach it to the base. So before we glue this up and attach it to the base, I want to talk about this guy right here. This has powered the entire project so far. We started this at 10 a.m. It is currently 2:15. We started with 100% power. We still have 70% left. Everything that we have used today has been plugged into this. This is the EcoFlow Delta Max portable power station. This is a big old battery and it's got lots of plugs in there. We've been powering the planer, the air compressor, and the miter saw since 10 a.m. this morning. It is now almost 2:30 and we are at 70%. We could work all day and tomorrow without recharging this. And this has solar panels, but we haven't had to use them today because this thing is a beast. It has been powering our portable workshop all day. I've been using the EcoFlow portable power stations for about 2 years now. I have the smaller version of this that I keep in my go-kart track, and it powers the lights when I run night races. It powers my air compressor and my tools when I'm out at the races. So when they contacted me and said they wanted to sponsor a video, I was like, I've been using your product for years and it's been amazing. I've been abusing that one like crazy. It's covered in oil and grease and go-kart dirt, and it's just served me well for the past couple years. So I was really excited when they contacted me and said they wanted to sponsor a video. On the front here, we have a nice display that says how many hours and percentage of battery we have left. And then down here, we have 4 USB-A ports and then 2 USB-C ports, so you can charge your devices on the go. On the back, we have 6 outlets. This is where you charge it. I will have a link to this down in the description. I really cannot recommend this enough. The solar panels are going to come in really handy when we go camping and we're off the grid for a couple days. Thank you, EcoFlow, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to this top and glue it together and attach it to the workbench. I love this. I really do love this thing. This is awesome. Getting ready to glue this up. Out of 14 pieces, this is all the scrap that I have. So a very efficient use out of 14 pieces. So now, cool. And just let that sit and dry for a little bit before we attach it. I have these expansion brackets here that I'm going to use to attach the top. They are slotted along here so the top can move and expand and contract this way. And so if it didn't have that, eventually it would bind and something would have to give. So I'm just going to screw these in here. I'm going to put one here, one here, one here, and one here. I'm just taping them into place to free up a hand. And then I'll just screw through that tape. It makes life easier. And in the place where you live. I've robbed the vise from my other bench because I got a brand new Andrew Klein vise for that one. And so this one has a new home. I'm going to apply a marine varnish on here because this is an outdoor workbench for me to do outdoor projects.